Well, good evening, everyone. It is good to see all of you all here, especially we got a little bit of rain. That didn't keep you from coming, and we're glad to see every one of your smiling faces. Thank you for coming to another one of our sessions of Who We Are. This is the second part of this series, and we got a few more to go. I hope you put those on your calendars and attend those as well. Like I said, I'm Perry Holman, the MC for tonight, so I got the easy part of this job, and that is to introduce our panelists and then thank some people at the end. But we're also going to have, as you've been here before, there's a part for all of us to participate, our panelists, as well as some time for you all to participate as well. So if you hear something that's said by the panelists, you want to remember it, jot it down, and going to be questions afterwards as well. So you won't forget those because it's all is in the questions and the conversation that we do have that allow this to grow and for us to get a good experience out of these things. And I always get something out of these, a nugget I can take back and put in my own life that I can make my life or someone else's life better. With that, I want to introduce our panelists for tonight. First of all, we have Alex, and we have Renee, Dina, Annie, Laura, and PJ. Let's give them a round of applause. And now let's give a warm welcome to the host, and that is Miss Erin Patrice as she enters into the building here. Well, as usual, she's busy, but that's okay. Let's give her a hand as she comes in.
Hello. I'm so excited. Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy that you all braved the weather. I was telling people earlier that at every event, literally, it has rain or snow. So this is like a sign that it's going to be a great show because it's raining right now, even after it was sunny all day. But welcome. I appreciate you all for being here to part 2 of the Who We Are series. And this one is titled We Are Impassioned. And what's so interesting is that when I first wanted to talk about like being passionate about something and being kind of excited within the community, art came to mind for me because I feel like artists in all of our different ways really mold and create our community, right? Our connections. And so I'm super excited about tonight and having you all here. Art can be celebratory. Art can ignite change and be innovative. Art is said to be interpretive. Art can be problematic. Art is a beautiful phenomenon that brings about epiphanies and self-reflection. Art is life to me. Art shows up in ways we can't imagine. Art is all the things, and we are going to talk about them today. So welcome to our guests at the table. Thank you. Let's give them another hand. So really, I want to just start off and just get right into this conversation. What role does art play in society today? And then even if you have some ideas of how it played in history, right? I mean, because art has always had a way of showing up and showing out in different ways. So how do you feel it plays a role in society today? Laura, I see your mind going. I see it. Tell us. Oh, tell us.
Well, when you're talking about in history too, I think we talk a lot about how you work for a living and you do all these things, but you do them so that you can afford to go to art, or so that you can, So it's sort of like it. I think it gives a lot of people purpose, depending on what type of art it is, any kind of art. But I think it gives a lot of people purpose.
Yes. Anybody else want to add to that? How does art play a role in society today? I know it's a very broad question, and that's intentional. I mean, how does it play a part? Because, and I want you all don't know the diversity at this table, but I do. And it's really interesting because we have people that are coming from different aspects of what I feel art is. We have a musician, we have someone that is in athletics, and to me, that is a part of art and community, restoration of old buildings and just all the things, right? Theater. How do you think art plays a role today? I mean, you look at history and it's always kind of showed up, especially in forms of advocacy, right? So how do you all feel it plays a role?
I feel like it inspires people. It touches people in ways that words can't. You know, art is something that's unique in its own way.
Yeah.
So it plays a huge role in today's world.
Yes, Annie?
Yeah, I think that artists really play the role of historians.
Yes, we can pick you up.
Yeah, artists really are historians. Like, art is the reason we know anything about like ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt. We know everything that we know about those civilizations is because the art they left behind.
Yes.
So art is really enshrined in the things that we as a society find important at that point in time. And then it's like a little time capsule that teaches people later what we were doing.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Just to piggyback on what you said, because I was thinking that my wheels were turning. Art, I think it drives movements. Any of the political movements down through history, I think artists were somewhat at the forefront of that because they're capturing those moments. And so I think to be an artist, you have to have a brilliant mind. And so whether you're, of course I'm going to say that, but whether you're a musician or a poet, a painter, any of those things, you're at the forefront. And sometimes it can be dangerous when you think back through history, because you're capturing those feelings, whether it's in a song or a poem or a painting or a portrait. Those people are always at the forefront of really big historical moments.
Yeah.
And so when the question comes up, how do art and history collaborate? I think, even if it's photography, when you think about like the civil rights movement and war, and you always think about the pictures that you see, or the video that you see, that's still art, whether it's painful or whether it's, those heartfelt moments that are captured.
Yeah, yeah. And we really don't have to think that far back, right? I mean, we all were here during 2020. During that time, especially when we had the social justice issues that took place with George Floyd, right? I mean, that was a historic moment in time for all of us because we all witnessed things, whatever side you sit on it, it was a historic moment and people were risking their lives to be in the front of those protests and to kind of capture it and stuff that, I wasn't there at some of the stuff, right? And then I look at these pictures and it's like, oh my goodness, and you get to see the pain or happiness, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, we don't have to look that far back in history and the unity. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would actually just say that the creation of art is one of the most human things because there's not too many other animals on Earth that do what we do. And even if when you go back to the very, very primitive days, you go back to the caves and there's paintings on the walls there. And it's a very interesting snapshot of what was important to us at every kind of moment in history, where now we have way more than we've ever had. But like if you go to a museum, you see the pottery of the past and the paintings of the past. And really, architecture is the thing that I'm in love with. And that is really an amazing documentation too, in the brick and mortar of this is who we are. This is what we care about. And that can be expressed for better or for worse as well.
Yes.
Can I add to that?
No, please.
I think what you said about oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. If it comes back, you are welcome to come back to that.
Can you repeat the first thing you said? I'm sorry. I had something and it was gone.
Yeah, it was the most human thing.
Oh yes,
Yep.
thank you. Yes.
I was just rewinding in my brain.
I always love to think about the cave paintings, like at Lascaux, right? They're 17,000 years old. Like these people were nomads. Like they were hunting and gathering and fighting for their lives every day, and they're still creating art. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks to the human need to be understood and to share and to be connected to other people and to leave behind your story or your legacy.
Yes, yes. Thank you for touching on that. My next question is, should art be used to influence political, religious, social, environmental views? I mean, do you think that we should use it? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you think that it should be used to communicate those different things in life? Laura? Yeah, or Renee?
Well, I think that is a very effective way to communicate things that you wouldn't say. You can express through music, through poetry, you can express it through a painting, so the harder emotions that are hard to actually say, you can express them through song. And I think that it gives you an avenue, a way to connect on an emotional level, to say the things that are really important. So when you're fighting for justice, I think it's a way that we all have like a universal language that we have, that we can understand those problems a little better, maybe by raising empathy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, because who has not been like in your car or in the shower, right, singing a song to the top of your lungs, like after a breakup or after something happened, right? And you are singing. I mean, you may not sound as good as the artist, but
That's a real song, y'all.
So, I mean, it is a way for us to express ourselves and what we're feeling. Does anybody else want to add to that?
I think for me the question is, are you talking about using your own art to express those things, or are you talking about taking someone else's art who you don't know really what their real intent was and twisting it to say something? I think that to me that gets a little gray area.
Okay.
That people can especially if it's a political thing or something, find someone else's song that you don't really know what they wrote it about and sort of twist it to mean what you want it to mean and then put it back out there. I think that to me is a little bit of a gray area.
Okay, I like that you said that, because I know people always talk about art being interpretive, right? And where you could look at it and me and you both could look at something and see it totally different, right? So people always seem to almost empower people to look at things how they see it.
And I think that's good. I think it's good to look at something and interpret it the way you want to interpret it. I think it's bad to take someone else's art and then tell someone else this is what it means.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I like that.
Coming from where I come from, and like when you talk about like Black history, we were always taught that in our community that like Negro spirituals, like that music, those songs had a message. And some of those songs actually had secret messages to teach slaves how to get to the Underground Railroad and how to get to freedom. And then when you go down through history and you talk about some of the songs during the Civil Rights Movement and how those songs really empowered people to keep going when times got hard. And so those songs that we still sometimes sing today in our churches and things, they still...
Oh, that's never happened before. I'm sorry. Well, thank you. We're allowed to stay here, though.
But we still sing.
Continue on.
We still sing those songs today as a way of tribute, but also as a way to remind us that we still have some ways to go. And so it's still art, but that artistry still reminds us, of our history and of our ancestry. And so I think your original question was, should art
Be used
as
to like kind of advocate toward
and influence history? I think because of, and I think every culture kind of has some form of how the different music and poetry and paintings and photography and things like that will influence, political movements. And I think I understand what you're saying when you say not to take something, and not understand the meaning and maybe twist it for your own narrative. But if you do understand what it means, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. 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 Oh, you're allowed to clap if you want to. That's okay. So I want to ask you all something a little bit more personal. When has your art healed you? Because you all do different things, right? And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have found times within your artistry that you may have found some healing through it. And I would like to ask, how has it like kind of worked for you as far as like a healing mechanism? And when you're looking at me so intently, I don't know. I know you're listening, but you're calling on me first.
To be honest, I didn't get to really think about this question until the drive over. So,
Good.
I don't know so much that it's healing necessarily, but I work in the performing arts. Otherwise, you won't understand my answer. I am, which no one would ever guess, a complete introvert. But I learned how to public speak, and I learned how to engage with people way more than I like to.
That's okay. That's okay to say. Yeah.
Because of my art. So I was able to kind of get through that. And I did have kind of a traumatic experience when I was like 12 on a stage. It was very traumatic, not telling you what it is. But I used theater to sort of work my way through it.
And that sounds like healing to me. Yes. Anybody else want to talk about how your art in whatever form has kind of healed you or brought some healing to your life?
So actually, I grew up pretty much making videos my whole life. I had a dad that was in the news. And one of the things that was kind of strange for me was I grew up with a very, very heavy speech impediment. So I could hardly get a word out without a stutter. And being able to talk to people, new people, was always one of the most mortifying things. But then around the time I moved to Chicago, I looked back at Saginaw, where I grew up, and I kept thinking about how I didn't quite understand anything about the city that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I started doing interviews. And that is, going into a room with somebody and asking them questions. And my favorite thing about interviewing is that your job is to be quiet. Your job is to keep the other person talking and thinking of the other prompts that could keep them talking. And when you do that consciously in a wide range of people, the kinds of overlap that you hear, the things that you can kind of piece together, the things that I held as prejudices maybe, or I held as, things that I really, didn't understand when I was younger, but as I got older, kind of, saw things in a completely different light. But it wasn't until I did all these interviews, had all these conversations, got completely out of my comfort zone, and then tried to tell other people about it, by editing it together. That was probably the single most impactful thing on not just my career, but my psyche. And the ability to be able to hear people was really through the medium of, doing interviews on video.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Wow. That's awesome. Renee?
Yeah, for me, I'm a little embarrassed to admit, but I really struggled with depression and anxiety as a kid. And for me, literally being a photographer helped me to focus on whatsoever things were good, true, and noble. And so being able to learn photography over all these years and really have it as a tool for me, it has forced me to really look at everything around me. So I can't go anywhere without finding all of the good things. I'm just delighted everywhere I go. When I'm taking pictures of people, I'm just amazed at how awesome they are. But it's been a wonderfully healing thing for me over the years. Anytime I feel a little bit depressed or, life is hard or whatever, I quickly goes away because of photography and all the way that I've trained myself to look for all of the good things. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Sharing that. And it has healed you.
I think especially during the quarantine, because we were all kind of sealed off in our own little corners. And I'm a live performer. I'm a musician and a singer, and I sing with bands. And not being able to do that was really hard for me, to not have that connection with an audience and with my band members. And so my mom called and she was like, "Why don't you just go in your music room and get behind your keyboard and just make some videos and sing?" And I think music healed me that way, and it's always healed me that way, even as a kid, because I started playing the piano very young, classical piano, very young, like 3 or 4. And whenever I would get down as a kid, I would always go play the piano and just work out my emotions playing the piano. And so she had to remind me, that's always been your outlet. And so I just did a video. The very first one I did was Anita Baker and the Winans. Ain't no need to worry.
Yeah.
And I got some views and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I felt better,
Yeah.
because it'll be all over in the morning. Like,
Yes.
it made me feel better
Yeah.
to know that other people were feeling the same way. Like,
Yes.
I'm not in this alone.
Yes.
We're all in this together.
Yes.
And we all gonna come out all right.
and we have. How has art healed you? Thanks for sharing.
Art has helped me through every hard time I've ever had. And sometimes it's me creating and working through emotions that I can't get out in words. I'm a visual artist. But even minor inconveniences, art helps me through. When I'm angry, I turn on angry music. When I'm sad, I turn on sad music, because I'm not somebody who likes to ignore those emotions. Like, I want to ladle myself in it. I want to sit in a stew of sadness when I'm sad. So I turn on sad music. And when I'm happy, I play happy music. But art is everywhere and everything. It's the way you dress, the way you do your hair, the way you decorate your table, do your landscaping, bake your food, it's in everything. And I remember being in high school and feeling very awkward all the time. I still feel that way. But we had like an art event one night and my teacher asked me to paint during the event. And it was the only time that I was ever like at an active, like people watching me thing at school where I didn't feel horrible. Like, I would rather be up here painting in front of everyone than talking. Because it's like a safety blanket for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm a basketball coach, and I'm from Dayton, Ohio. And if you know anything about Dayton, like, basketball is like #1 in our town, right? So moving up here, not a basketball city. All right, I'll be honest with you. But so it's just something I really had to get used to. And I always worked with the youth. Always wanted to teach the youth, because when I got up here, like, these kids didn't know how to set screens, like just the basic stuff that I was just, like, I felt so bad. So like, I wanted to teach the youth, right? So, so just being here, teaching the youth and helping them, like, I really fell in love with it. And this is after I played basketball at Northwood. And so after I graduated, I wanted to get back into coaching. So just helping the youth out. And then I was like, I'm ready to bump it up a little bit. So people would tell me all the time, like, you're not ready for varsity yet. Like, I would hear that, right? I think I interviewed like 2 high schools around Midland. I'm not gonna say any names, but 2 high schools in Midland. They said I wasn't ready yet. All right. So I will say Bay City Western, shout out to them, because they gave me a shot. Right.
Yeah.
And so
And you did great things there.
yeah, Bay City Western, the people who said I wasn't ready yet, Bay City Western, before I got there, they haven't won more than 6 games since 2011. Like, my first year, I won 11. So, like, like, it's just really, like, just like, it's art, because, like, I always seen the big picture, right? Even when we, it would be times, you know, we'll get beat by 30, right? And I will like pout a lot, actually. I will pout a lot. But I always seen the big picture, and you know, like it's art to me though, because like, you know, I had to come up with different plans for these, you know, for these boys to be successful on a basketball court. And you know, it worked out just, you know, like for guy, like I'm telling you, like I had the toughest times there because like I mean at Bay City Western kids didn't know how to play basketball there either. All right. So it was tough for me there, but like, you know, I prep with them. I put in the extra time with them. And you know, I had a successful season. Now, you know, after my first season, kind of sad in a way. Because, you know, going into next year, I had bigger plans, you know, for us to be even more successful. But Northwood called me back and gave me a shot to be on the coaching staff now. So just keep leveling up, you know, just keep leveling up. And, you know, that's what it's about.
I'm glad. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad that you touched on that because it's really important when we talk about art, for me anyway, to involve children in that, right? When I hear about children that don't have access to art or don't realize how they can impact, right, the community through their art, whatever it looks like, through sports, through painting, through singing, whatever that is, it saddens me. And so I always really try to reach out to other artists and figure out like how can we get kids more involved, right? I mean, I know at Creative 360, you all do the summer camps, which was great, and things all throughout the year, of course. But you know, why do you think it's so important for children to have access to art? I mean, I could go on about it, but I want to hear from you all. Why do you all think it's important for children and not just us, right? But kids to be able to imagine, right? Anybody want to add to that?
I think when you're young, you haven't really quite figured out how to work through your emotions yet, and to have an outlet like visual arts where you can, you know, do something as simple as just scribbling hard with a pencil on a piece of paper, even though it's just scribbles that you're probably going to throw away, it's still helpful to move your body, to think about what's bothering you, to work through it. And art doesn't have to be, you know, painting something that's gallery worthy. It's making anything, doing anything, moving your body, creating things that didn't exist before. I think it's vital for kids to have that kind of outlet because it helps your emotional growth.
Yeah. And when you kept doing this, all I heard was like release, right? That release. I mean, we don't know what to say. I mean, I remember being a child and just crying because I didn't know how to communicate my hurt and my pain, and I didn't have the words for it. And so I would write poems, or I would draw, or I would scribble on the wall. But that's my mother's here. I'm sorry. But you know, I would do things to release it, and because that was how I was able to get it out. So why do y'all think it's important for children to have access to art?
I think it helps you to grow in like courage. I think that for me, you know, as a kind of recovering, I always say recovering perfectionist, I remember, you know, always like just feeling embarrassed, you know, when I would start painting something. But I think the opportunity to paint something and have it not be awesome is actually good. You know, we grow in courage and we can keep improving it, and we need to experience that you can make art that's not very good, and that's okay. It's still it still has value.
Yes. And isn't it so subjective? Because I have seen things that's on galleries and I'm like, now give me a break. I could have thrown that up there, I think, right? I only think I can do it, and then I really can't. But yes. Thank you for sharing that, Alex.
So that's actually very close to what I was going to say, because of the fact that there's this very precious thing that kids have that they don't know the rules yet.
Yeah.
And there aren't any, and I'm really mad at the people who told me there were, because there are so many things that I wish I could have just, you know, expressed. But this is how you're supposed to do it. This is what it's supposed to look like. You need, you know, to draw within these lines. But I don't have any kids, but I've got a couple friends with kids that I hang out with all the time. And just watching what they come up with organically is one of the coolest things, because I'll just look at this drawing and say, how did you come up with that? Yeah. But at the same time, it's got a lot of depth to it for like a 4-year-old. You know?
Yeah.